Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Urban drama. Aunt Wenjie, it's time to pay rent. Upon waking up, Zhang Wen traveled through a parallel world composed of urban dramas. Little Joy, Good Sir, Ode to Joy, Golden Years, 30 Years, there is a wide variety of urban dramas. Zhu Suosuo said, Zhang Wen, do you want to see my sister's black silk? Tong Wenjie said, Xiao Wen, thank you very much. Jiang Nan Sun. Zhang Wen is my god. Jiang Lai. You bastard, you really don't know how to cherish fragrance and jade. Xiaoingzi. I love brother Zhang Wen the most. Zhang Wen. I just want to clock in and receive rewards, they are all really voluntary. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Start by stirring Dong Wenjie. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Beijing. In a 5-star hotel suite. Zhang Wen slowly opened his eyes and reached out to rub his still slightly dizzy head. Hush. Not right. How did his elbow touch a soft object? And why is there a faint fragrance permeating the air? Zhang Wen slowly turned his head away. A delicate face appeared in front of him. Skilled short hair, fair skin, slightly swollen lips. The most important thing is that the woman in front of me is not wearing clothes. Hush. Zhang Wen couldn't help but take a deep breath, and a comment about women popped up in his mind. Snow White and flawless, round and perky, can be called the best. But why is it a bit familiar? Zhang Wen looked at the sleeping woman in front of him while recalling what had happened last night. He remembers he only got dressed in this world yesterday afternoon. There is only one mobile phone all over my body. Under great stimulation, Zhang Wen casually found a bar to get drunk. Drinking Zhang Wen was a bit dazed and didn't understand how to drink before coming to the hotel. The next thing. That's just natural. Thinking of the woman's madness yesterday, Zhang Wen couldn't help but shiver. Sure enough. Mature peaches are delicious. No wonder everyone wants to eat. Suddenly, a piercing bell rang. Zhang Wen looked towards the place where the sound came from, on the ground. The woman's phone screen lit up, and a phone number with a note in the circle kept flashing. Zhang Wen felt a bit strange. Because this name seems to have been heard there before. But he only wore it yesterday and has no acquaintances in this world. At this moment, under the bombardment of the bell, the woman gradually woke up from her sleep. Who, call early in the morning? When I saw Zhang Wen in front of me, the woman's voice suddenly stopped. The woman is a bit confused. What is this? A hint of doubt flashed on the delicate little face of the woman, and then something seemed to come to her mind. Her face turned pale with a brush. Oh my goodness. She was. Yes. Yesterday the woman gritted her teeth tightly, and a hint of disbelief quickly appeared on her face. No. This is impossible. A woman wants to hypnotize herself, but the unfamiliar environment around her and the scattered clothes on the ground clearly tell her that last night was all real. Regret and guilt completely engulf women. Women can't help but feel a sour nose, slightly swollen eyes, and bright red eyes. Ding-ling-ling, the piercing bell continued to ring. The woman could no longer immerse herself in her emotions and had to sit up, bend over, and pick up her phone. With the woman's quick movements, her graceful figure is undoubtedly revealed. This made Zhang Wen beside him feel a little bloodthirsty. How to say it? It's not good for the body to be stimulated like this in the morning. Don't ask why it's not good for your health, asking is just accusing you. Morning exercise is not conducive to health preservation. However, the woman did not notice anything was amiss, and her attention was focused on the phone number in front of her. Looking at the phone number that could be memorized upside down, a hint of guilt flashed in the woman's eyes, filling her heart. Then she quickly hung up the phone. The woman forced herself to calm down and shifted her gaze to Zhang Wen on the side. Looking at Zhang Wen's focused gaze, the woman blinked and realized something. She looked down at herself. Oh my goodness. At a glance. So she was bending and twisting just now. Didn't she reveal her figure to the fullest? The woman suddenly felt both shy and angry, her cheeks burning hot on both sides. For some reason, she suddenly thought of the century war last night. Thinking of the exhilarating battle last night. Thinking of those scenes, the woman's emotions became somewhat complicated. Last night. She was really the woman bit her lips tightly, with an indescribable expression on her face. After a few seconds of silence, Wenjie looked at Zhang Wen. Although her current mood is complex, she has to admit it. The young man in front of me is also too beautiful. Eyes, nose, and lips are all excellent when picked out, and when combined, they are perfect. The most important thing is the abdominal muscle mermaid line. Upon seeing this, Zhang Wen felt a bit confused. Just now, the woman blushed and lost her composure. Why was she staring at her in the blink of an eye? Zhang Wen quickly made some sounds. Cough and cough. Upon hearing the soft cough, the woman's figure paused. She suddenly realized that she had been staring at the boy in front of her just now. The woman quickly withdrew her gaze, and her emotions became even more complex. No, I have to leave here quickly. The woman secretly thought to herself, then she wrapped herself in a blanket, picked up the scattered clothes on the ground, and ran towards the bathroom. When she reappeared, the woman stood in front of Zhang Wen, dressed neatly and with a complex expression. A sleek professional outfit showcases a woman's perfect figure to the fullest. Just. How come the more you look, the more familiar you become? Zhang Wen felt a bit puzzled in his heart. He seemed to have seen a woman there. At this moment, a spiritual light flashed through Zhang Wen's mind. He remembered. Isn't the woman in front of him exactly Wenjie from the world TV series, Little Joy? No wonder I felt familiar with the name Fang Yuan just now. Isn't that another supporting role in the TV series? Zhang Wen thought to himself. It turned out that he had traveled through the parallel world of the TV series, Little Joy. At the same time, dressed neatly, Wenjie looked at Zhang Wen and opened her mouth, hesitating to speak. She didn't know what to say to the boy in front of her. After all, they have only known each other for less than 24 hours since yesterday. She doesn't even know the other person's name. Thinking of this, Wenjie hesitated for a moment, but ultimately only uttered one sentence. I'll leave first, you can leave later. After speaking, Wenjie picked up the bag on the side and turned around to leave. Upon hearing Wenjie's voice, Zhang Wen regained consciousness from his own thoughts. He looked at Wenjie's back with a hint of contemplation in his eyes, not saying anything. After the door was completely closed, Zhang Wen withdrew his gaze and slowly got out of bed, ready to wash up. However, as soon as Zhang Wen stood on the ground, a piercing pain came to his mind. It feels like someone pierced his brain tissue with a large gold needle. However, the pain only lasted for 2 or 3 seconds before it disappeared. At the same time, a cold mechanical sound echoed in Zhang Wen's mind. Congratulations on activating the divine level check.in system. You can earn rewards by checking in every day. Zhang Wen couldn't help but show a hint of joy on his face. Sure enough. He knew that the necessary welfare for travelers like Tongzi would only be late, but it would never be missed. Take a rough look at the system features. Zhang Wen directly checked in for the first time. Ding! First successful check.in, rewards have been credited. You have obtained a school district building in Shuxiang Yayuan. Chapter 2. How is the tenant? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the information on the system prompt page, Zhang Wen's lips curved slightly, revealing a faint smile. The clocking system is still very awesome. The first reward was actually a building. In this way, not only can you live on your own, but you can also rent out the remaining units. Zhang Wen is very satisfied with this result. After all, if he wants to live in this world, he certainly needs a place to live and an income. Zhang Wen thought while recalling the movie Little Joy he had watched before. He remembers that in the TV drama Little Joy, the male and female leads Fang Yuan and others lived in Yuan. As for the rest, Zhang Wen didn't think much, but directly took out his phone to search for some information about Yuan. He only then learned that Yuan could also rank among the top 3 in the school district housing of the entire capital city. Superior geographical location and complete supporting facilities. Although rent prices are expensive, there is still a shortage of supply. Every day, there are numerous families waiting to rent a house here. There are a total of 12 buildings, each with 40.8 households. It seems that I need to find some tenants. Zhang Wen pondered for a moment and directly hung the building he had just acquired at the housing agency. After finishing these, Zhang Wen left the hotel and took a taxi on the roadside. "Young man, where are you going?" As soon as he got on the car, the driver enthusiastically asked. Yuan. Zhang Wen said lightly. Upon hearing this answer, the driver turned his head to look at Zhang Wen. When I saw Zhang Wen's young face, the driver's expression became somewhat strange and he said. "Young man, are you going to Yuan? I heard that the security there is very responsible and the access control is very strict. If it weren't for the owners, they wouldn't be able to get in." Upon hearing this, Zhang Wen didn't speak, but turned his head and looked out the window. The driver saw this and a hint of embarrassment appeared on his face. He continued to ask with some reluctance. "Well, if you want to make sure you go to Yuan, let's set off." Zhang Wen looked out the window and nodded. Seeing Zhang Wen not even looking at himself, the driver felt a bit annoyed. He didn't say much and turned his head to start the car. 15 minutes later. The taxi parked steadily on the roadside of Yuan. As soon as Zhang Wen got off the car, he noticed a graceful figure standing not far away in a light purple knee-length skirt. White and delicate skin, crystal clear eyes, slender and beautiful eyebrows, every facial feature is just right. A slim-fitting long skirt perfectly curves a woman's slender waist, and her slender and symmetrical calves resemble white lotus roots. A straight body and round buttocks. Every one exudes charm. Zhang Wen couldn't help but brighten his eyes. He didn't expect to encounter another female character, Song Qian, from the TV series Little Joy, on his first day at Yuan. Perhaps due to being a teacher, compared to Dong Wenjie, who is a passionate professional woman, Song Qian has a more intellectual temperament. "It's okay, you didn't mean to. Don't think too much about this kind of thing." Song Qian sometimes frowned slightly, sometimes stretched her face, and a gentle voice kept coming in. "Is this comforting?" Zhang Wen raised his eyebrows slightly and had a vague guess in his heart. At this point, Song Qian on the side also looked over and noticed the presence of Zhang Wen. When she saw Zhang Wen's appearance clearly, Song Qian opened her eyes slightly and felt somewhat surprised. After teaching for so many years and seeing so many students, it was the first time she had seen such a beautiful young man. Song Qian couldn't help but take 2 more glances. Feeling Song Qian's gaze, Zhang Wen didn't pay much attention and didn't plan to do anything. After all, he knows Song Qian, but Song Qian doesn't know her. He may be misunderstood by Song Qian if he rashly goes up like this. Therefore, Zhang Wenjie walked straight towards the gate of Yuan. Looking at Zhang Wen's back, Song Qian's face flashed with a hint of contemplation. Is this a new tenant who has moved in? It should also be for the convenience of going to school. Song Qian continued to respond to the other end of the phone while thinking. As soon as they arrived at the door, the security guard greeted them. Hello, please present your property owner's certificate. The security guard's attitude was somewhat casual, with a hint of arrogance hidden in his eyes. Zhang Wen glanced at the security guard in front of him and said calmly, "I am the owner of Building 8. Upon hearing this, the security guard widened his eyes, opened his mouth slightly, and instantly became restless. After all, the person in front of me is not an ordinary homeowner. But it's the owner who bought an entire building. Moreover, due to the construction area of supporting facilities, the price of the 8th building is the highest in the entire Yuan. This morning, the general manager specifically instructed all of them to be extremely respectful when encountering this financier. If anyone dares to provoke this financier, they will immediately leave. Who would have thought that this gold digger was such a young boy?" Thinking of his performance just now, the security guard felt a little regretful in his heart. Then he quickly put on a flattering smile and said in the most respectful tone of his life, "You're Mr. Zhang, right? I'm Xiao Wang. Just call me Xiao Wang. Just a moment, I'll get you the house certificate now." After speaking, Xiao Wang quickly ran away. 5 minutes later, Xiao Wang ran back with a stack of house certificates, sweating profusely. After calming down for a moment, Xiao Wang said dog-legged, "Here are all your house certificates. Let me help you deliver them to your room." Upon hearing this, Zhang Wen nodded in agreement. As a homeowner, it is also appropriate to enjoy some benefits. Soon, Zhang Wen and the security guard arrived at Building 8. Zhang Wen randomly selected a household with 5 floors facing south. The living room is bright, the bedroom is cozy, and the home equipment is complete. Zhang Wen is very satisfied. "Mr. Zhang, where can I put these certificates for you?" The security guard respectfully inquired. "Just put it on the table. Then go back to your position." Zhang Wen then pointed. "Okay." The security guard answered while neatly placing the certificate in his hand on the table in the living room. Then he looked at Zhang Wen and flattered, saying, "Then I'll leave first. Please let me know if you have anything to do." Zhang Wen nodded. The security guard saw the situation, turned around and left, and lightly closed the door for Zhang Wen. After looking around, Zhang Wen sat on the sofa. He hasn't rested yet this morning. At this moment. Ding-ling-ling. The phone rings. Zhang Wen couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled. He doesn't know anyone who would call him. Zhang Wen took out his phone and pressed the answer button. "Hello, Mr. Zhang. We are a real estate agent here, and you were with us before." A sweet voice came from the other end of the phone. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Wen received information from the property manager. When Zhang Wen saw that the name of the contact person who came to pay the rent and rent today was Fang Yuan, his face became somewhat strange. Chapter 3. Unscrupulous and Honest Owners. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fang Yuan. Looking at the name displayed on the information, Zhang Wen felt somewhat surprised. This is too coincidental, isn't it? His first tenant was a male lead in the TV series Little Joy. However, even so, Zhang Wen did not take this matter too seriously. After all, Yuan is a gathering place for male and female leads in the TV drama Little Joy. It is quite normal to encounter male and female leads. Zhang Wen stopped thinking and walked towards the bedroom. He drank so much alcohol last night and exercised wildly for so long. He needs to take a good rest for a while. Dingling bell. As the piercing bell rang, Zhang Wen slowly opened his eyes, picked up his nearby phone, and pressed the answer button. "Hello, is that Mr. Zhang?" A thick male voice came from the other end of the phone. Zhang Wen rubbed his sleepy eyes and responded, "I am, which one of you?" Upon hearing Zhang Wen's answer, the voice on the other end of the phone became noticeably more polite. "Hello, I am tenant Fang Yuan. I'm calling to inquire about your availability this afternoon." We would like to take a look at the room types and discuss renting with you. Zhang Wen pondered for a moment and looked at the clock, pondering. Come over in an hour. I'm waiting for you at Building 101, Building 8. Okay, thank you, replied the happy person on the other end of the phone. 1 hour later. Zhang Wen took the elevator and arrived at 101. He had just entered the room a few minutes before the doorbell rang. Opening the door, two familiar figures imprinted in Zhang Wen's eyes. A figure dressed in a gray-brown suit, with a slightly chubby figure, big eyes, and a tired expression, looked around 40 years old. In contrast, another figure wearing a basketball uniform is much younger, with a youthful and refreshing aura emanating from all over. However, although the two figures are far apart in terms of age and physique, Zhang Wen can still see many similarities in their faces. Seeing the landlord so young, a hint of surprise appeared on Fang Yuan's face. To his knowledge, the houses in Shuxiang Yuan are quite expensive. It seems that Mr. Zhang has a lot of confidence in his family. Fang Yuan secretly thought to herself, and couldn't help but become a bit reserved. She politely smiled and said, "Hello, Mr. Zhang, my name is Fang Yuan. I have contacted you before and will come to see the house this afternoon. Come on in." Zhang Wen nodded slightly. After a tour, both Fang Yuan and Fang Yifan had smiles on their faces. This house has perfect hardware and software. This made Fang and Yuan very satisfied. Immediately, Fang Yuan began to inquire about Zhang Wen's rental matters. "Mr. Zhang, what is the rental law for our house?" "Starting from 1 year, the rent is 240,000 yuan. Zhang Wen said lightly. Upon hearing these words, Fang Yuan's smile solidified on his face, and his expression became somewhat awkward. 24,000. That's too much, isn't it? It is simply impossible for them to take out 240,000 yuan at once, as they are supported by a family of high school students. Can we start renting for 6 months, Mr. Zhang? Fang Yuan sneered and said. Upon hearing this, Zhang Wen shook his head. After thinking for a moment, Fang Yuan continued. Wait a moment, I'll give my lover a call. After speaking, Fang Yuan walked towards the study. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. Sitting on the sofa, Fang Yifan understood that this was the savior his father had found. He quickly got up and went to open the door. Dong Wenjie and Song Qian walked in arm in hand. When Dong Wenjie saw the slender figure in the living room, she paused and froze in place, stiff all over. How could it be him? Dong Wenjie's face instantly turned pale, and her heart was extremely flustered. She didn't expect to meet the boy in front of her again in such an occasion. Dong Wenjie felt a restless feeling all over her body, feeling extremely uncomfortable. Even her toes were tightly gripping the ground. Her expression became incredibly unnatural. At the same time, Song Qian beside her saw clearly that Zhang Wen was the young man she had seen this morning, and a hint of surprise couldn't help but appear on her face. Is this the Zhang homeowner you told me on the way? Song Qian poked Dong Wenjie's arm and asked curiously in a low voice. She has never seen such a young homeowner before. Upon hearing Song Qian's voice, Dong Wenjie came to her senses. She calmed her emotions and tried to squeeze out a smile, nodding to Song Qian and saying. I have something else to discuss with Fang Yuan. Why don't you come back first? I'll contact you later. After finishing speaking, Dong Wenjie pushed Song Qian towards the door without hesitation. Looking at Dong Wenjie, who was so abnormal, Song Qian was somewhat puzzled. But since Dong Wenjie asked her to leave first, she couldn't stay any longer. So Song Qian and Fang Yuan greeted each other and left directly. Returning to the living room again, Dong Wenjie was pulled aside by Fang Yuan. I have sent you a message to clarify the situation. Look at us now. Fang Yuan looked at Dong Wenjie with a questioning expression in his eyes. Take Fan Fan to see what's in the room first, I'll talk about it. Dong Wenjie gave Fang Yuan a wink and urged him. Seeing their figures completely disappear into the living room, Dong Wenjie then shifted her gaze to Zhang Wen in front of her. That. Dong Wenjie pursed her lips and stood stiffly in front of Zhang Wen, her face full of embarrassment. She doesn't know how to speak. After some thought, Dong Wenjie gritted her teeth or chose to open the door and see the mountain path. I would like to discuss with you. Can we rent this house for 6 months first and then renew it after 6 months? I can't negotiate. Zhang Wen raised his eyebrows slightly and shook his head gently, saying. Dong Wenjie saw that Zhang Wen had rejected her directly, and a hint of embarrassment and shame appeared on her face. Then a hint of anxiety flashed through her flickering big eyes, and she took 2 steps forward to continue. But. However, before Dong Wenjie could finish speaking, Zhang Wen spoke up. Starting from 1 year, if you don't want to, you can leave. Looking at Zhang Wen's usual face, Dong Wenjie realized that Zhang Wen was not joking. If they insist on renting for 6 months, Zhang Wen will definitely let them leave here. Thinking of this, Dong Wenjie felt a bit flustered. Fang Yifan is now the key to further education. The most convenient way is to live in Shuxiang Yayuan. Moreover, the houses in Shuxiang Yayuan are very scarce, and they waited for a long time before waiting for this one. If you don't rent it, I don't know how long it will take for the next set. So they must assemble this house. But the rent is exactly 60,000 yuan. Dong Wenjie's eyebrows furrowed slightly, feeling somewhat bewildered. Suddenly, an idea emerged from Dong Wenjie's heart. She can talk to Zhang Wen privately. But if Zhang Wen refuses to accept, Dong Wenjie struggled in her heart. The final decision to rent forced Dong Wenjie to make a choice. She walked up to Zhang Wen with an awkward expression on her face, making it difficult for her to speak up. How about I add you a contact information first, and we can contact you later tonight? After speaking, Dong Wenjie's face turned red. What she said was too ambiguous, right? What does it mean to contact again at night? Those who don't know thought they were going to do something. However, having said it all, Dong Wenjie could only stand here with a stiff face, feeling embarrassed and ashamed all over her cheeks. On the contrary, after hearing what Dong Wenjie said, Zhang Wen raised his eyebrows and glanced at her, then calmly uttered a word. Okay. Upon hearing this word, Dong Wenjie breathed a sigh of relief. Then she quickly added Zhang Wen's contact information. Then I'll go see the house with them first. Dong Wenjie picked up her phone and quickly walked towards the study. That hurried pace had a somewhat desolate and fleeing posture. Chapter 4 is still quite nostalgic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a moment, Dong Wenjie and Fang Yuan finished visiting the entire house. Looking at Zhang Wen sitting calmly on the sofa, Fang Yifan curled his lips and felt somewhat dissatisfied. Although this house is very nice, the landlord is also too difficult to talk to. He needs to find a way. Fang Yifan rolled his eyes and an idea came out of his heart. I said, what's wrong with your house? It smells so pungent. Isn't this a newly renovated one? Is there still formaldehyde residue in the house? As Fang Yifan spoke, he lifted his hand and waved the air in front of his face, looking very serious. Zhang Wen glanced at him, didn't speak, and turned his head to the other side, looking out the window with an indifferent expression. Seeing Zhang Wen's lack of explanation, Fang Yifan, who was ignored, felt a bit angry and his face became ugly. Not just a landlord. What are you dragging? What is the rule that requires 1 year of rent? Fang Yifan became increasingly angry as he thought, and began to mutter. Drag what? Fang Yifan. Dong Wenjie's face darkened as she interrupted Fang Yifan's self-talk. The nearby Fang Yuan quickly agreed, Fan, don't act recklessly. I'm not fooling around, this house. Fang Yifan looked at the two of them, wanting to continue saying something. Upon seeing the situation, Dong Wenjie gave him a fierce glare and shouted harshly. Fang Yifan, shut up. Seeing that Dong Wenjie seemed really angry, a trace of grievance surged in Fang Yifan's heart. He frowned and looked at Dong Wenjie, his gaze full of confusion. He was clearly solving problems for his family, but why was he yelled at instead? The more Fang Yifan thought about it, the more he felt aggrieved. He couldn't help but shift his gaze to Zhang Wen on the sofa, the initiator in his heart. When Fang Yifan saw that Zhang Wen didn't even look this way, his face turned completely black. He stared fixedly at Zhang Wen, his eyes filled with resentment. Dong Wenjie looked at Fang Yifan's appearance on the side and couldn't help but furrow her brows, feeling extremely angry. Let's go. Go home. She pushed Fang Yifan towards the door. Upon seeing the situation, Fang Yuan quickly said to Zhang Wen. Mr. Zhang, let's withdraw first. Let's go back and discuss the rental matter. Zhang Wen nodded. Dong Wenjie walked with a reluctant expression on Fang Yifan's face, followed closely by Fang Yuan. As soon as I walked to the entrance of the community, I saw the figure of Song Qian. Why haven't you gone back yet? Dong Wenjie welcomed him with a smile. I'm worried about you guys, I just wanted to wait for you to come out and ask for the results. Song Qian nodded towards Fang Yuan and walked shoulder to shoulder with Dong Wenjie, holding onto her arm. How are you doing? Have you rented the house yet? Song Qian expressed concern. Don't mention it, we haven't reached an agreement on the lease term and haven't rented the house yet. The nearby square sighed and breathed a sigh. Didn't we reach an agreement? Song Qian was somewhat surprised and turned her gaze to her best friend beside her. To her knowledge, Dong Wenjie has never failed in negotiations. You didn't succeed in taking action yourself? Song Qian asked in confusion. Dong Wenjie shook her head helplessly and said. You cannot rent for half a year, you must start renting for a year. Upon hearing this answer, Song Qian's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and after thinking for a few seconds, she suggested. I don't think that homeowner Zhang is as articulate as that person. Why don't you treat someone to a meal and have a conversation at the table? This method is good. Fang Yuan smiled and agreed, then looked at Dong Wenjie and asked. What do you think? After a few seconds of silence, Dong Wenjie said. Don't worry about renting a house, I'll take care of it. Upon hearing this, Fang Yuan blinked and a hint of surprise flashed on his face. Don't worry about him, Dong Wenjie will solve it himself. Didn't we not reach an agreement just now? How to solve it? Fang Yuan was very puzzled in his heart, he always felt that Dong Wenjie's behavior today was a bit strange. Especially when visiting the house today, I was absent-minded. However, in front of Song Qian, Fang Yuan didn't say much and nodded, no longer speaking. Seeing that both Dong Wenjie and Fang Yuan's faces were not looking too good, Song Qian stopped talking. The four of them silently walked forward. At the same time, Zhang Wen also returned to his room. I just squinted for a while when the phone rang. Zhang Wen looked at the screen, and Dong Wenjie's three big characters kept flashing. Then he pressed the answer button. What's up? The phone was quiet for 2 seconds, and Dong Wenjie's voice rang. Do you have time tonight at 7 o'clock? I would like to treat you to a meal. Sure, you can send the address directly, Zhang Wen said before hanging up the phone. After a brief rest, Zhang Wen set off. He casually stopped a taxi and drove towards the address Cloud Restaurant sent by Dong Wenjie. However, when Zhang Wen was about to enter the Cloud Restaurant, he was stopped. Hello, sir, do you have an appointment? The security guard at the entrance of the restaurant respectfully asked. Upon hearing this, Zhang Wen shook his head. I'm sorry, sir. This restaurant can only be accessed with an appointment. I'm really sorry. The security guard continued. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Wen walked aside and took out his phone to call Dong Wenjie. I'm at the entrance of the Cloud restaurant. If you don't come in 5 minutes, don't come. After speaking, Zhang Wen hung up the phone directly. On the other end of the phone, Dong Wenjie listened to the busy sound coming from her phone and couldn't help but grit her teeth, then quicken her pace. 4 minutes later, Dong Wenjie's figure hurriedly rushed towards this side. By the time Dong Wenjie walked in, some beads of sweat had already seeped out of her forehead. She was panting slightly, her face turning slightly red, and her chest heaving violently. It's not that she said it's exhausting to rush over in such a short time. Dong Wenjie thought to herself, but her face did not show any dissatisfaction. And he tried to squeeze out a slightly guilty smile and politely said to Zhang Wen. I'm really sorry, I invited you to dinner later than you did. I'm really sorry. Upon hearing this, Zhang Wen shrugged and said it was nothing. Dong Wenjie saw the situation and continued to say. Let's go first. Under the guidance of the waiter, the two quickly sat down. After ordering a few dishes casually, Dong Wenjie jumped to the theme and said. Zhang Wen, can you rent the house in your Shuxiang Yayuan starting from 6 months? Zhang Wen raised his eyebrows slightly and glanced at Dong Wenjie, but did not speak. Seeing that Zhang Wen did not respond, Dong Wenjie was somewhat anxious. She leaned forward, half lying on the table, wanting to get closer to Zhang Wen and said. Can't we discuss it at all? I really want to rent that house. Due to half lying on his stomach, Zhang Wen was able to clearly see a touch of Snow White in Dong Wenjie's impressive career path. However, Zhang Wen still refused Dong Wenjie's request. Starting from 1 year, we can't negotiate. It's okay if you don't want to, there are many people queuing up. Zhang Wen casually said. Dong Wenjie was slightly taken aback. She didn't expect to discuss this matter with Zhang Wen alone, and Zhang Wen would refuse so quickly. Looking at Zhang Wen's handsome face, Dong Wenjie suddenly thought of their madness last night. At that time, Zhang Wen was not as calm as he is now. Dong Wenjie felt very speechless. But now she has a request from Zhang Wen, so she can only grit her teeth and endure it. Chapter 5. If you have something to do tonight, don't go home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, a piercing phone bell suddenly rang. Dong Wenjie took out her phone and looked at the constantly flashing word Song Qian on the screen. After hesitating for a moment, she pressed the answer button. A slightly anxious voice came over. Wenjie, do you know what's going on between Fang Yuan and Yingzi? Did they have an early romance? Due to the loud volume of the phone, Zhang Wen, who was sitting opposite Dong Wenjie, could hear the content on the other end of the phone word for word. Dong Wenjie couldn't help but feel a hint of embarrassment on her face. She instinctively glanced at Zhang Wen and then whispered to the other end of the phone. I don't know. Fang Yuan and Yingzi have not always been good friends. Why is it related to early love? Are you sure? Song Qian asked on the other end of the phone. Forget it, let's gather at the Cloud restaurant later and meet to chat. Before Dong Wenjie could say anything, Song Qian hung up the phone directly. Listening to the busy sound on her phone, Dong Wenjie looked at Zhang Wen and a hint of apology appeared on her face, saying. I'm really sorry. Song Qian will come over later. It's okay, Zhang Wen said calmly, and then began to enjoy the delicious food. Looking at the table full of delicious food, Dong Wenjie had no appetite. The problem with the house has not been solved yet, and Fang Yuan has started dating again. Dong Wenjie was full of sorrow, and her expression constantly changed. I frowned for a moment, my face showed nervousness for a moment. I looked restless and restless. In no time, a graceful figure walked towards the table where Zhang Wen and the others were. Zhang Wen looked up and found that it was Song Qian who came. However, at this moment, Song Qian was no longer wearing the afternoon light purple dress, but had changed to a low-necked black vest. There are no flaws on the snow-white skin, and the proud curves are faintly visible. The vest was covered with a light purple cardigan sweater, adding a touch of gentleness to Song Qian. The slim black pants tightly wrapped around Song Qian's body show Song Qian's slender and round perfect leg shape to the fullest. Combined with the high heels on her feet, Song Qian looked both intellectual and charming. At the same time, Song Qian also noticed Zhang Wen. Her pupils slightly opened, and a hint of surprise flashed across her delicate face. Is this Dong Wenjie so fast? I just gave my opinion in the afternoon, but I took action tonight. Song Qian thought to herself. But why is Wenjie alone? Why hasn't Fang Yuan come? Song Qian was puzzled in her heart, but her face had already bloomed with a graceful smile towards Zhang Wen, saying. So coincidentally, Mr. Zhang is also present. Zhang Wen nodded slightly to indicate. Upon seeing this, Song Qian immediately pulled open one of the chairs and sat down, shifting her gaze to Dong Wenjie, her expression becoming more serious. Wenjie, do you know anything about Fang Yifan and Yingzi? Faced with Song Qian's straightforward question, Dong Wenjie shook her head. I'm really not sure. And I think although Fang Yifan doesn't study well, he is still a good child at heart and won't fall in love early. As for Yingzi. Dong Wenjie paused for a moment and continued. Yingzi, you don't have to worry anymore. Excellent in character and education, obedient and sensible, many people envy you for having such a good daughter. Upon hearing Dong Wenjie's words, Song Qian's face softened. After thinking for a few seconds, she said. Wenjie, I think the two children are at a critical moment now, and nothing can affect their learning. So, if necessary, I suggest that Yingzi and Fang Yifan can maintain a certain distance. In this case, it will only benefit the two children and have no harm. Song Qian talked endlessly. Dong Wenjie saw this and a hint of embarrassment appeared on her face. She instinctively glanced at Zhang Wen. Although Zhang Wen did not look at her, Dong Wenjie still felt very embarrassed. She quickly interrupted Song Qian. Let's talk about this matter later. I have other things to solve here. Speaking, Dong Wenjie gave Song Qian a glance and signaled for her to leave quickly. Song Qian was slightly taken aback, then reacted and looked at Zhang Wen with a smile, saying. Sorry, Mr. Zhang, it has taken up so much of your time. Zhang Wen shook his head and said it was nothing. Song Qian didn't care about Zhang Wen's indifferent attitude, but instead continued to say. Mr. Zhang looks so young and has his own house in Shuxiang Yayuan. His future is limitless. Where are you now? Seeing Song Qian completely shift her attention to Zhang Wen, Dong Wenjie felt somewhat helpless. She quietly pushed Song Qian's thigh under the table. Song Qian just stopped. Song Qian, are you still going to pick up Yingzi? Let's go quickly. Dong Wenjie casually found a reason to make Song Qian leave. Song Qian understood the situation and quickly nodded in agreement. That's right, I have to hurry up and pick up Yingzi. Speaking, Song Qian stood up. However, she did not leave immediately. Instead, she took out her phone and looked at Zhang Wen with a gentle smile, saying. Mr. Zhang, is it convenient to add a contact information? Sure, Zhang Wen took out his phone. After successfully adding her contact information, Song Qian wore a satisfied smile on her face. I'll withdraw today. Mr. Zhang, take your time to chat. Song Qian greeted and then turned around to leave. Seeing Song Qian's figure disappear into the restaurant, Dong Wenjie finally breathed a sigh of relief. Next, she can finally continue to have a good conversation with Zhang Wen about the house. But just now Zhang Wen had clearly refused her, what else could she say? Dong Wenjie's face was filled with confusion. Looking at Zhang Wen sitting there calmly, her heart began to struggle. Should we do that or not? Dong Wenjie hesitated. After a final ideological struggle, Dong Wenjie made up her mind and made up her mind. Anyway, the matter of the house is resolved today. As for the solution, Dong Wenjie frowned slightly, bit her lips tightly, and her face was filled with complex emotions. After a few minutes of silence, Dong Wenjie took a deep breath and looked at Zhang Wen, asking again. Zhang Wen, how can you rent the house in Shuxiang Yayuan for a minimum of 6 months? Zhang Wen raised his eyebrows slightly and glanced at Dong Wenjie, but did not speak. Dong Wenjie directly picked up the wine on the table and poured herself a full glass. With his eyes closed, Dong Wenjie drank all the wine in his glass in one breath. In just a few seconds, Dong Wenjie's face was dyed with a light pink blush. Dong Wenjie only felt a burning sensation in her throat. However, she did not stop, but continued to fill her glass. Dong Wenjie didn't put down the cup until she had finished 3 full glasses. She glanced at Zhang Wen, feeling both embarrassed and annoyed, and finally gritted her teeth and took out her phone, sending a message to Fang Yuan. I won't go home tonight if I have something to do. Chapter 6. Fang Yuan. Why is it strange? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Dong Wenjie's series of operations, Zhang Wen raised his eyebrows slightly and vaguely guessed something in his heart. However, Zhang Wen did not make a sound. After all, it's really impolite to interrupt Dong Wenjie at this time. Wait until Dong Wenjie finishes sending the message and installs her phone, then turn her attention to Zhang Wen again. Let's go. Dong Wenjie's voice was somewhat indifferent. Then the two of them stood up one after another and walked towards the outside of the restaurant. The sky outside has completely darkened. The gentle breeze blew by, and Dong Wenjie couldn't help but shiver. She leaned her environmentally friendly arm towards the position where Zhang Wen was. However, her face remained very indifferent. Quickly, the two of them stopped a taxi. A moment later, Zhang Wen and Dong Wenjie arrived at the location. Looking at the familiar surroundings, a hint of surprise flashed across Zhang Wen's face. He didn't expect Dong Wenjie to take him directly to the hotel yesterday. I didn't see it, this little Dong is quite nostalgic. Zhang Wen thought to himself. At this point, Dong Wenjie, who had consumed 3 glasses of wine, began to feel a bit dizzy. Her cheeks also tinged with drunkenness, adding a touch of charm to her. I'll go take a shower first, please wait a moment. After speaking, Dong Wenjie walked towards the bathroom, her figure swaying slightly. Can you help me get the towel? A few minutes later, a slightly shy voice came from the bathroom. Zhang Wen picked up a nearby towel and walked towards the bathroom. The bathroom door is made of frosted glass, and Dong Wenjie's graceful figure is faintly visible on the glass. Zhang Wen glanced twice and then handed the towel in his hand directly to the white arm that still had water droplets sticking out. After a moment, Dong Wenjie walked out wrapped in a towel. Her fragrant shoulders are snow-white, her arms are slender, and the part of her lower leg that is not covered by the towel is even smoother and fairer, without any flaws. Dong Wenjie's small face, which had just taken a shower, turned red from the steam. In addition, she bit her lips lightly, with a shy and angry expression on her face, which made her look more like a teenage girl. She slowly moved in the direction where Zhang Wen was. That. We. Dong Wenjie looked at Zhang Wen, and as soon as she said a few words, she stumbled and rushed towards him. Ah! With a scream from Dong Wenjie. The next second, a soft body squeezed into its embrace. His nose tip could even clearly ask about the faint fragrance on Dong Wenjie's body just after bathing. The next day, the sunlight shone into the room, and Zhang Wenkai slowly opened his eyes. He looked beside him, and Dong Wenjie's figure was no longer on the empty bed. Then Zhang Wen stretched his lower limbs and began today's check.in. Ding, you have obtained a high-end Western restaurant called Cloud Restaurant. Cloud Restaurant. Isn't this the restaurant where we had dinner with Dong Wenjie last night? Zhang Wen chuckled lightly, feeling full of joy. He is still quite satisfied with today's check that in reward. After washing up, Zhang Wen casually stopped a taxi and prepared to head to the Cloud restaurant. Sitting in the taxi, Zhang Wenshun took out his phone and sent a message to Dong Wenjie. Sign the contract today starting from 1 year, the rent is calculated on a 6-month basis. Then Zhang Wen put on his phone, closed his eyes, and prepared to take a nap for a while. Ding! Looking at the message sent by Zhang Wen, Dong Wenjie frowned slightly, bit her lower lip lightly, and her expression became somewhat complicated. She didn't expect such a result. She originally thought that Zhang Wen would only agree to the condition of starting to rent for 6 months. I didn't expect Zhang Wen to insist on starting the rent for a year, but the rent will be paid half a year. It suddenly decreased by 120,000. That guy is really generous. Dong Wenjie murmured softly, with an indescribable emotion surging from the bottom of her heart. Later, Dong Wenjie sorted out her emotions and informed Fang Yifan and Fang Yuan about this matter. Upon hearing this news, Fang Yifan suddenly stood up from the sofa, looking surprised and saying, "What? Pay according to half a year's rent?" Fang Yifan's tone was full of surprise. He never expected that the seemingly annoying landlord would be so kind. This surprised Fang Yifan to the extreme. "Mom, you wouldn't have made a mistake, would you?" Fang Yifan looked at Dong Wenjie and raised his own question. Dong Wenjie looked at him angrily and said with a stern expression, "Can I get this kind of thing wrong? You look down too much on your mother, right?" Fang Yifan pursed his lips, still a bit skeptical. On the contrary, there was a hint of exploration in the expression on Dong Wenjie's face, as the circle on the side remained silent. "This is just too coincidental. Wenjie didn't go home last night, so the rent dropped today." A hint of doubt emerged in Fang Yuan's heart. He thinks there must be something strange here. Fang Yuan decided to find an opportunity to insinuate. Let's see how Dong Wenjie really talked about collecting rent. Meanwhile, Zhang Wen quickly arrived at the entrance of the Cloud restaurant. At this moment, a lot of people had already gathered at the entrance of the Cloud restaurant, making a lot of noise. Upon seeing this, Zhang Wen's face flashed with a hint of doubt. Then he walked straight through the crowd towards the interior of the Cloud restaurant. Zhang Wen finally realized that the reason why so many people gathered at the entrance was because someone was causing trouble in the restaurant. The troublemaker is a very young-looking woman. She was wearing a black leather jacket, and her tight hip skirt showcased the perfect buttocks of a woman. Under the black stockings, a pair of slender legs faintly appeared. Paired with marten boots, it adds a touch of handsomeness to women. However, compared to the cool and handsome outfit of a woman, her bold makeup is even more unforgettable. A fair little face with a pair of very beautiful eyebrows, and big eyes with thick and slender eyelashes. Of course. The most eye-catching thing is the woman's fiery red lips. The bright red color paired with snow-white skin is very impactful. However, this beautiful red lip is now fiercely outputting. After seeing the appearance of the troublemaker clearly, Zhang Wen's expression became somewhat strange. He knows this woman. She is Jiang Lai, the female lead in the TV series, Good Sir, that he has watched before. I didn't expect to bump into her. Zhang Wen pondered in his heart. He suddenly realized something. He may not have traveled through the parallel world of the TV series, Little Joy, but rather into a parallel world of film and television integration. It seems that I still need to know a lot more. Zhang Wen thought to himself that he had already stepped towards the interior of the restaurant. Niche type fan. I hope your favorite brothers can support me more. P.S. Harem text, don't miss it. Absolutely beautiful. Please ask for flowers, monthly tickets, evaluation tickets, reminder tickets, and tips. Chapter 7. Young people, don't learn from others to defend against unfair. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Seeing Zhang Wen's figure, the general manager of the Cloud restaurant quickly stepped forward to stop him and showed an embarrassed smile, saying, "I'm really sorry, sir. This restaurant is not open to the public today." As he spoke, the manager made a gesture of invitation, gesturing for Zhang Wen to leave. Upon seeing this, Zhang Wen directly introduced himself. "My name is Zhang Wen." Upon hearing this, a flash of surprise flashed across the manager's face. He had already received accurate information this morning that a Mr. Zhang Wen had fully purchased this restaurant. "But I didn't expect it to be such a young boy." The manager was very surprised. He originally thought he was a wealthy overseas businessman and members of some big families. "I never thought. It was the young man in front of me." The manager's attitude instantly became respectful. "Zhang Dong, I'm sorry that you didn't know the truth just now." The manager has a very humble attitude. After waving his hand to show indifference, Zhang Wen looked in the direction where Jiang Lai was and asked calmly, "What's going on?" The manager saw this and was afraid that Zhang Wenhui would vent his anger over it. He quickly explained. "It's like this, Zhang Dong. That lady's name is Jiang Lai, and she is the owner of our competitor, Grey Whale Restaurant. She obviously came to cause trouble today because our recent revenue far exceeds that of Grey Whale Restaurant." Causing trouble. Zhang Wen's mouth curved slightly and sneered. "I will personally handle this matter." After speaking, Zhang Wen walked towards the location where Jiang Lai was. The manager saw the situation and quickly followed closely behind. At the same time, Jiang Lai couldn't help but frown as he looked at Zhang Wen approaching towards him. She doesn't know this young man. But the middle-aged man following behind the young man, she knew, was the general manager of this Cloud restaurant. Let the CEO follow behind, it seems that this young man's status is not low. Jiang Lai secretly thought to himself. However, even so, she didn't take Zhang Wen to heart. After all, in this capital city, she also has a backing. Not only that, when Zhang Wen walked over, Jiang Lai even gave him a fierce glare and said disdainfully, "Young man, stay away. Don't learn from others to fight against injustice. Some idle matters are beyond your control." Upon hearing these words, Zhang Wen felt a bit amused. Sure enough, Jiang Lai's character is exactly the same as that in the TV play. But no matter how scared you are, you can't cause trouble in his restaurant. Zhang Wen thought as he picked up a nearby kettle and poured a cup of cold boiled water, then pushed the cup in front of Jiang Lai. Jiang Lai sneered at the situation and waved his jade hand, knocking the cup over to the ground. Wow! The sound of glass shattering echoed throughout the restaurant. The manager standing behind Zhang Wen suddenly turned black when he saw this. The employees around looked at Jiang Lai with anger in their eyes. However, Jiang Lai paid no attention and even looked around the crowd very provocatively. Upon seeing this, Zhang Wen looked thoughtfully at the glass fragments on the ground. Then he directly picked up the nearby kettle and poured all the water in it onto Jiang Lai's face. Ah! Jiang Lai let out a scream. She didn't even have time to resist, and she turned into a drowned rat. Her wet hair was tightly pressed against both sides of her cheeks, constantly dripping with water droplets. The soaked clothes completely revealed her figure curves. The entire restaurant instantly quieted down. Everyone opened their mouths slightly and their eyes widened in disbelief as they looked at Zhang Wen. No one expected Zhang Wen to make such a decisive move. This is simply amazing. This kind of wicked woman. It should be sanctioned like this. Even the manager standing behind Zhang Wen looked at everything in front of him and couldn't help but smile, silently giving him a thumbs up in his heart. Be decisive. Just do it. Sharp. Jiang Lai, soaked all over, looked down at himself in disbelief. She didn't even see clearly how she was splashed with water just now. Anger shot out directly from Jiang Lai's heart. She looked up at Zhang Wen, her face full of anger. The intense fluctuations in her chest tell everyone the current unease in her heart. After a few seconds of silence, Jiang Lai shouted loudly. "How dare you do this to me? I'm going to kill you." As he spoke, Jiang Lai frantically rushed towards Zhang Wen. The manager quickly shouted upon seeing the situation. "Quick! Security! Stop her!" A few security guards around rushed forward when they heard it. Jiang Lai was even stopped before he could even reach the corner of Zhang Wen's clothes. Looking at the woman who was going crazy and shouting incessantly, Zhang Wen waved his hand and said calmly, "Drive away." The security guards nodded and quickly dragged Jiang Lai towards the restaurant. Just at this moment, suddenly, a figure rushed out of the corner. "Stop it!" Everyone looked over one after another. When Zhang Wen saw the man's appearance clearly, he raised his eyebrows slightly and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Great! Another acquaintance. It's a long way." Jiang Lai, who was being held up by the security guard, saw his figure walking far away, and a hint of excitement appeared on his face. "It's a long way. You finally came. Help me quickly." Speaking, Jiang Lai broke free from the constraints of the security guard and ran towards the distance. The manager couldn't help but frown and approached Zhang Wenhui to report in a low voice. "Zhang Dong, this man is with Jiang Lai and is the head chef of Grey Whale Restaurant." Zhang Wen nodded, indicating that he knew. At the same time, looking at Jiang Lai, who was all disheveled, Lu Yuan's face was filled with anger. He looked fiercely at the crowd and shouted loudly. "Bullying a woman like this, are you still considered men?" After speaking, Lu Yuan looked around the crowd. "Everyone here today will pay a price, one by one." Upon hearing these words, the staff of the Cloud restaurant around them all showed disdainful expressions. It's not that they said the boss of Grey Whale didn't even get any benefits here. What qualifications does he have as a cook to be so arrogant? Seeing that everyone didn't take themselves seriously, Lu Yuan looked directly at Zhang Wen and said, "It's the Jiang Lai you poured. I have already called the police. You wait to have a good meal." Upon hearing what Lu Yuan said, Jiang Lai was overjoyed. She wrapped her hands around her chest, looked at Zhang Wen, and snorted coldly. "You heard me. You wait for me. I Jiang Lai, if I don't punish you, I'll lose my reputation. You're dead today. When the police arrive, it's no use crying, Dad, or Mom. Upon hearing these words, the manager's face on the side turned a bit ugly. He didn't expect Jiang Lai to send someone to hide in the dark. This is his dereliction of duty. It's too insidious. The manager cursed angrily in his heart, but he tried hard to squeeze out a smile on his face and looked at Jiang Lai, saying, "Miss Jiang, all of this is a misunderstanding. Look." However, he hasn't finished speaking yet. Don't be interrupted by Jiang Lai. "You shut up. You don't have the right to speak here." Jiang Lai's tone was full of contempt, and after speaking, he looked at Zhang Wen provocatively, with a look of victory in his hands. Extremely arrogant. As for the distance, he stood with his hands on his hips beside Jiang Lai, looking at everyone with disdain in his eyes. The manager who was choked back also had a hint of anger on his face. But he knows. Now is not the time to get angry. So he quickly adjusted his emotions and stepped up to Zhang Wen, whispering, "Zhang Dong, the current situation is a bit unfavorable for us. Otherwise, let's start today." The manager hesitated to speak. He believes that Zhang Wen can definitely understand what he hasn't said. However, Zhang Wen ignored the manager. But instead, he looked at Jiang Lai and others with a sneer and said, "Have you finished speaking?" Speaking, Zhang Wen took out his own phone. Everyone looked over and saw that Zhang Wen's phone was stuck on the recording interface. Chapter 8. Thank you, Uncle Police. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Zhang Wen's phone stuck on the recording interface, everyone showed a hint of doubt. Even the experienced manager on the side quickly showed a hint of confusion on his face. He doesn't understand why Zhang Wen recorded it. This is not very useful. You should know that the most important thing now is to appease the two people in front of you. Otherwise, the police will come soon, and their cloud restaurant may have to rest for a few days. At this thought, the manager's eyebrows twisted into a ball, his face full of melancholy. Jiang Lai on the side saw Zhang Wen's action and immediately showed a contemptuous smile. She didn't say it. Is the man in front of me a fool? Bring out the recording software, is this funny? Jiang Lai is extremely disdainful. Standing on the side, the road was far away, and his expression was also very arrogant. Not only that, he also occasionally echoed Jiang Lai and cursed at everyone. Until the sound of the police car whistle sounded outside, the two of them could barely stop. In less than a minute, 3 police officers dressed in police uniforms walked in. Upon seeing the situation, Jiang Lai gave Zhang Wen a provocative glare and quickly walked forward to cry out. Police comrades, you. However, halfway through Jiang Lai's conversation, he was interrupted by Zhang Wen. Police officer, this lady, you have threatened me personally. Zhang Wen calmly expressed what he wanted to say. Jiang Lai was taken aback by the situation. Then she widened her eyes and a hint of surprise appeared on her face. What's going on here? She was splashed all over with water, and the person who splashed her ended up reporting it first. Jiang Lai is going crazy with anger. She walked straight towards Zhang Wen, cursing loudly as she walked. Okay, you Zhang Wen. Are you struggling until you die? I must tidy up you today, let you know what heaven and earth are thick means. Speaking, Jiang Lai rolled up his sleeves and prepared to do a big job. Seeing the situation from afar, a hint of anxiety flashed on my face. Afraid of Jiang Lai's losses, Lu Yuan quickly said to the police beside him. Police comrades, please help me quickly. Otherwise, Jiang Lai, a girl, will be bullied by the employees of this restaurant again. Upon hearing these words, one of the younger police officers looked a bit strange as he looked towards Lu Yuandao. Are you sure? The other 2 police officers, who looked older, shouted fiercely at Jiang Lai. Stop it. Are you still planning to fight in front of us? Upon seeing this, Jiang Lai stopped in anger and explained with a guilty heart. Police officer, I also couldn't control my emotions because he slandered me. Tell me, what's going on? One of the police officers looked around at the crowd. It's like this, police officer. This lady not only caused trouble in the restaurant, but also threatened me personally. Speaking, Zhang Wen took out his phone and clicked the play button. Jiang Lai's arrogant curses suddenly came out. This is not the case. Jiang Lai saw the situation and wanted to step forward to stop it, but was stopped by a police officer. Shut up. Stand quietly on the side, don't interfere with official business. Upon hearing this, Jiang Lai could only stand on the side and stare resentfully at Zhang Wen and the phone with the recording on the table. When all the recordings were played, the eyebrows of the 3 police officers couldn't help but furrow. They looked at Jiang Lai and said, Madam, you have disrupted public order and threatened others' personal safety. Could you please come with us? Upon hearing this, Jiang Lai's big eyes were filled with panic. What's going on? How could it be herself who was taken away? The road on the side was far-sighted and quickly jumped out to explain to the police. Police comrades, you misunderstood. The first one to take action is the boy named Zhang Wen, Jiang Lai is just for legitimate defense. The police looked at Lu Yuan with a clear expression of disbelief. Seeing the situation from afar, I am completely anxious. He stopped in front of the police and shouted. Police officer, it was really that boy who moved his hand first. If you don't believe it, you can check the surveillance. Upon hearing this, the manager standing behind Zhang Wen quickly walked over. He looked at the three police officers with an apologetic smile and said, "I'm really sorry, at the same time as the police, our restaurant's surveillance system has been broken long ago and we haven't had time to find someone to fix it." Upon hearing the manager's explanation, the police nodded without saying anything, but walked directly towards the police car outside the door with Jiang Lai. The employees of the Cloud restaurant breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing this. Everyone didn't expect the matter to be resolved so easily. Everyone suddenly showed a hint of admiration for Zhang Wenjie in their hearts. Seeing Jiang Lai being taken away by the police, his face turned pale from the distance. He didn't expect things to develop to this extent. And all of this is because Lu Yuan turned his gaze to Zhang Wen. His whole face suddenly turned black, gloomy as if it could drip water. However, Zhang Wen only gave him an indifferent glance and then instructed the manager beside him. "Get out of here." The security guards saw the situation and didn't wait for the manager's instructions, so they all walked towards the road. Helpless, Lu Yuan could only angrily say, "You wait for me." After speaking, he turned around and left. Watching the disappearing figure from the distance, a hint of concern appeared on the manager's face beside him. After pondering for a few seconds, he walked up to Zhang Wen and said, "Zhang Dong, today's situation has escalated like this. I'm worried that Jiang Lai will retaliate against you and our restaurant." "It's okay," Zhang Wen shook his head without paying any attention. The manager saw the situation and continued to ask, "Zhang Dong, what will our restaurant do next?" Zhang Wen pondered for a few seconds and said with a very calm expression, "Keep the price down. Press harder." The manager nodded, not saying anything. At the same time, Jiang Lai, who was pulled to the police station, was given oral education after completing his transcript. This made Jiang Lai, who was soaked all over and had not eaten, extremely uncomfortable. She has never experienced such injustice since childhood. "Zhang Wen, right. Wait for me. I will definitely find the venue." Jiang Lai secretly swore in his heart. When she walked out of the police station, she saw a figure far away at a glance. Jiang Lai rushed over with a face full of anger. And Lu Yuan welcomed him with a face full of concern. "It's a long way, you trash. You can't even do such a simple thing well. If it weren't for you, could I have been taken to the station today?" Jiang Lai roared loudly, venting all his dissatisfaction towards the distance. Upon hearing Jiang Lai's angry roar, his footsteps stopped at a distance and he froze in place. He didn't expect that he had been waiting in the cold wind for a whole 5 hours, and the first person to greet him was Jiang Lai's cursing. "My face from afar couldn't help but become very ugly." A wave of anger rushed directly to his spiritual cover. "Stop talking!" Lu Yuan shouted sternly. "I'm a waste, what are you? Don't forget how you messed up today's situation." Lu Yuan's face was full of anger. Upon hearing these words, Jiang Lai's emotions were instantly ignited. The two began to argue loudly. Chapter 9. Money is really capricious. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As Jiang Lai's voice grew louder and louder as he walked away, his words became more and more excessive. His face turned completely black. "Get out of here." Jiang Lai pointed to Lu Yuan and shouted loudly. "Okay. Don't come to me again for anything in the future." Lu Yuan shouted sternly. After finishing speaking, he turned around and strode away. Watching the disappearing figure from the distance, Jiang Lai's anger grew stronger and stronger in his heart. She decided to find a place to vent well. Immediately, Jiang Lai went home and changed his clothes, then went to the frequently visited high bar. 1, 2, 3 After drinking 5 full glasses, Jiang Lai's emotions finally calmed down slightly. "Zhang Wen, how dare he be so sneaky with me today? It's really despicable. Jiang Lai gritted his teeth and gritted his teeth, his hand holding the wine glass involuntarily exerting force. From childhood to adulthood, she has never been bullied like this. She must find a way to deal with Zhang Wen severely. After instructing about the price war, Zhang Wen went directly to the office that the manager had just carefully prepared for him. On the table are the land deeds, commercial certificates, and data on the revenue of the cloud restaurant over the past 3 months. Upon seeing this, Zhang Wen picked it up with ease. After some calculation, Zhang Wen also gained a general understanding of the value of the entire cloud-based restaurant. Roughly speaking, this cloud-based restaurant is worth nearly 20 million yuan. Zhang Wen whispered, with an excited smile on the corner of his mouth. This is because he did not include the restaurant's monthly income in the calculation, otherwise, this number could have doubled again. Zhang Wen is extremely happy. Just then, his phone suddenly rang. He looked at the 3 flashing words Dong Wenjie on the screen and pressed the answer button. "What's up?" Zhang Wen said lightly. Dong Wenjie's voice came from the other end of the phone. "It's not that we agreed to sign the contract today, I'm just calling to ask when you have time." Upon hearing these words, Zhang Wen said directly. "Then come to the cloud restaurant now." After speaking, Zhang Wen hung up the phone. Sitting next to Dong Wenjie, Fang Yuan naturally heard the content of the phone call. A look of excitement appeared on his face, and he exclaimed in surprise. "Cloud Restaurant. That's one of the top Western restaurants in the capital. I'm going too." Upon hearing these words, Dong Wenjie frowned slightly and said in a deep voice. "I'm going to sign the contract, what are you doing? Stay at home and do your homework well." Upon seeing this, Fang Yuan quickly hugged Dong Wenjie's arm and coquettishly said. "Oh, Mom, take me with you. I haven't been to such a good Western restaurant before. Just take me on a long journey, and I can still be with you. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone." Under Fang Yuan's strong attack, Dong Wenjie finally agreed. However, she still felt a bit uneasy and began to advise. "Where did you go? You can't cause trouble, and you need to be polite." Fang Yuan nodded heavily and ran towards his room, shouting while running. "Mom, wait a moment, I'll call Yingzi along." Dong Wenjie shook her head helplessly upon seeing the situation. Upon receiving Fang Yuan's message, Xiao Yingzi casually tidied up and prepared to leave. Song Qian, who was sitting in the living room, quickly stood up and asked. "Yingzi, where are you going?" "My classmates and I are going to have Western food and will be back soon." Upon hearing these words, Song Qian's face became somewhat displeased. However, looking at the smile on Yingzi's face, Song Qian didn't say anything to stop her. But rather concerned. "Come back early, I can't make a phone call. Mom will pick you up." "Got it," Yingzi said and immediately opened the door and left. After a moment, Zhang Wen had just taken his seat when he saw Dong Wenjie and others walking towards this side. He looked up. Today, Dong Wenjie changed into a slim-fitting black dress, which perfectly showcased her perfect curves. A straight chest, slender waist, and full buttocks. In addition, the lace material adds a touch of mystery to Dong Wenjie's elusive snow-white skin. As for Dong Wenjie's left side, there is Fang Yuan dressed in gray sportswear. And on the right a white and tender oval face, with a pair of dark, grape-like bright big eyes below the curved eyebrows. The delicate nose, Yin Tao's small mouth, and a red camisole dress make this figure full of youthful vitality from top to bottom. Looking at this figure, Zhang Wen raised his eyebrows slightly and a hint of surprise flashed on his face. "Is this Xiao Yingzi?" Zhang Wen really didn't expect to see her today. Quickly, 3 people took their seats. After signing the contract, Zhang Wen took the menu from the waiter's hand and casually flipped through it. Black truffle ham salad, beef sushi, silver cod grilled, red wine grilled mushrooms. Zhang Wen casually said. Dong Wenjie, standing beside her, lowered her head slightly and pursed her mouth, her expression becoming somewhat reserved. The dishes that Zhang Wen just ordered are not cheap on the menu. The total cost is probably tens of thousands. When Zhang smelled and ordered these dishes, his eyes didn't even blink. Fang Yifan beside him widened his eyes and opened his mouth slightly, his face full of surprise. Don't say it's in a cloud restaurant. Even if he goes to a hot pot restaurant on the roadside, he dare not do so. This is too bold, isn't it? Fang Yifan looked envious and couldn't help but sigh. Money is so capricious. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Wen calmly looked at Fang Yifan and casually said. These don't require any money. Upon hearing this, Dong Wenjie's delicate face flashed with a hint of surprise. No need to spend money. What does this mean? Dong Wenjie was a bit puzzled, but didn't feel embarrassed to ask her own questions. At the same time, Xiaoyingzi, who came with Dong Wenjie and Fang Yifan, looked at Zhang Wen in front of her with big eyes flickering, and a hint of doubt flashed on her tender white face. Strange, why is it so similar? Xiaoyingzi thought to herself. Zhang Wen in front of her was very familiar, but Xiaoyingzi was not sure if Zhang Wen was the person she had in mind. However, Xiaoyingzi did not rashly ask. After all, it would be a bit awkward if it were just two people with very similar appearances. How about adding your contact information first so that you have a chance to explore it? Xiaoyingzi pondered in her heart. Then she took out her phone and looked at Zhang Wen, saying. Can I add you a contact information? Upon hearing this, Zhang Wen's face flashed with a hint of surprise, but he still nodded and said. Sure. Seeing Zhang Wen so readily agreeing, Xiaoyingzi's eyes curved into crescents and added Zhang Wen's contact information with a smile. Upon seeing this, Fang Yifan's face immediately became somewhat unattractive. He has never seen Xiaoyingzi actively add male WeChat before. And, isn't it just adding a contact information, as for laughing so happily? Fang Yifan complained in his heart that he was extremely uncomfortable. If I had known he wouldn't have called Yingzi today. A hint of regret flashed on Fang Yifan's face. Then he picked up a large chopstick and placed it in the bowl in front of Xiaoyingzi, but couldn't help but say. Hurry up and eat. Don't play with your phone while eating. Chapter 10 Jiang Lai. I went all out today. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Dong Wenjie left with Fang Yifan and Xiaoyingzi, Zhang Wen decided to find a place to relax. Then he took out his phone and checked it, deciding to go to the nearest high bar to the Cloud restaurant. After a moment, Zhang Wen's figure appeared in the high bar. He casually found a seat and sat down. However, as soon as Zhang Wen sat down, he saw a familiar figure in the back seat. Jiang Lai. Still iconic with fiery red lips and flaunting long hair draped over shoulders. However, the black leather jacket on the body was replaced with a black trench coat. The inner layer is a loose, slightly transparent white T-dot shirt. As Jiang Lai continued to sway, the slender waist in by T also faintly appeared, adding a touch of hazy beauty to her. However, Zhang Wen just glanced casually and then withdrew his gaze. Then Zhang Wen called the bartender, ordered a few bottles of wine, and began to enjoy it. At the same time, Jiang Lai, who was already feeling dizzy after drinking, also noticed that a new customer had arrived at the booth in front of him. Jiang Lai looked over. When Jiang Lai saw the familiar profile, his pupils dilated and his face was stained with a strong anger. Okay. What a narrow path for enemies. She hadn't gone to find Zhang Wen yet, but Zhang Wen appeared in front of her first. It's great to come. Jiang Lai sneered. Then she picked up a wine bottle from the side and rushed towards Zhang Wen, then raised her hand and smashed the bottle in her hand fiercely towards Zhang Wen's head. Looking at Jiang Lai suddenly rushing out and the wine bottle she had already raised in her hand, Zhang Wen's gaze froze. Then he lifted his hand and waved towards Jiang Lai. Pa! A crisp sound. Jiang Lai was slapped to the ground by Zhang Wen. Her cheek quickly turned red and swollen on one side. Jiang Lai, who was knocked to the ground, covered his cheek on one side and opened his eyes and mouth with an incredulous expression. She didn't even see clearly how she was knocked down by Zhang Wen. And how dare Zhang Wen? Shock, anger, and other emotions intertwined and surged out of Jiang Lai's heart. She glared fiercely in the direction where Zhang Wen was, saying, "How dare you hit me?" Zhang Wen's expression was indifferent and he didn't speak. Jiang Lai, upon seeing this, saw that there was still a trace of rationality that was completely destroyed by the anger. "I insist on ruining your reputation today." Jiang Lai gritted his teeth with a ferocious expression, squeezing out word by word. Then she went crazy and threw herself at Zhang Wen's feet, taking off her windbreaker. She hugged Zhang Wen's legs tightly and screamed sadly towards the surroundings. "Hurry up, someone. Someone is playing hooligans here. Everyone, come and save me. Sexual harassment." Jiang Lai continued to take off his clothes while shouting loudly. Soon, many people gathered around. Everyone pointed and nodded at Jiang Lai and Zhang Wen in the middle of the room. "What's going on? I heard it's playing hooligans. That man doesn't look like this kind of person either. Everyone, you speak, I speak." Even some malicious people's eyes lit up, their eyes squinting as they looked at Jiang Lai. Jiang Lai doesn't care at all. She even took off her white T-dot shirt and slid a shoulder strap from her camisole to the side. "Everyone, look, it's this man who sexually harasses." Jiang Lai shouted wildly on his face, holding onto Zhang Wen tightly and constantly tinkering with his clothes. Looking at Jiang Lai who suddenly went crazy, Zhang Wen couldn't help but frown. This divine operation is really his first time seeing it. At this moment, the security personnel of the bar also rushed over. They first evacuated the surrounding crowd, and then one of the security personnel spoke up to persuade them. "Madam, could you please stop first so that we can have a good conversation?" However, Jiang Lai didn't even glance at the security personnel, let alone listen to what he was saying. Other security personnel, upon seeing the situation, also spoke up and advised. "If you have any demands, you can express them to us. Please do not disturb the normal order of the entire bar here. Your influence is not very good, could you please stop first?" Jiang Lai ignored and still hugged Zhang Wen tightly, unbuttoning his pants and shouting. "Catch the hooligans. Everyone, come and take a look. Someone is harassing women here. Today is the day when the heavenly King Laozi comes, and Jiang Lai will definitely not let go. She must also send Zhang Wen to the station." Thinking of the tragic outcome that Zhang Wen was about to face, Jiang Lai looked arrogantly at Zhang Wen, leaving a very provocative smile. Upon seeing this, Zhang Wen couldn't help but show no signs of fear. Instead, he calmly took out his phone and directly turned on the recording function. "Continue. Tomorrow your video will become a hit in the entire capital," Zhang Wen casually said. Upon hearing what Zhang Wen said, Jiang Lai was slightly taken aback. The next second, her drunkenness disappeared instantly, and her entire mind became incredibly clear. She knew that the man in front of her was not joking. After all, the reason why she entered the bureau today is because of the man in front of her. So Jiang Lai has no doubt about what Zhang Wen Gang just said. Thinking of his previous actions, Jiang Lai's heart sank instantly. Looking at Jiang Lai, who suddenly fell silent, the surrounding security guards looked at Zhang Wen with a hint of admiration in their eyes. Can make a lunatic quiet. It seems that their bar can also use this recruitment in the future. At this point, Jiang Lai had completely lost his previous arrogance. She sat on the ground with messy hair and a flustered expression on her delicate makeup. No, this kind of video cannot be spread. Otherwise, not only her, but also the reputation of the entire Jiang family will definitely be severely damaged. Jiang Lai pondered in his heart. She forced herself to calm down. Then Jiang Laiping regained his emotions and gathered the courage to look at Zhang Wen and ask. Tell me, how can you solve this problem so that you don't spread the video? Upon hearing this, Zhang Wen glanced at Jiang Lai with an indifferent expression and did not speak. Jiang Lai, who was ignored, suddenly had a hint of anger on his face. She desperately suppressed her anger and spoke again. Give me a price, no matter how much, I can agree. However, upon hearing these words, Zhang Wen remained unmoved and his expression remained indifferent. Upon seeing this, Jiang Lai suddenly understood in his heart that money may not be able to impress the man in front of him. That's right. How could someone like the manager of a cloud restaurant follow behind as a junior? Thinking of this, Jiang Lai's face instantly collapsed. Money is not enough, what other terms can she use to impress Zhang Wen? After a few seconds of silence, Jiang Lai thought of it. Just Jiang Lai hesitated inwardly. However, thinking of the video in Zhang Wen's hand, Jiang Lai forgot all his concerns. She gritted her teeth and pulled up Zhang Wen's arm, walking towards the outside of the bar.